It's coming your way. It's a handout that explains a couple different things that Mr. Young and I wanted to talk to y'all about. One of our goals with Avid, for those of you who are not involved on the Avid team or are not quite sure about Avid or don't know that much about it, we want to provide some resources for you that will help with student engagement and student learning. And so we kind of want to think about a few things differently because some of the the new stuff with tests in terms of being distinguished instead of proficient requires that things be more student-led. And so some of the basic things that you can do to help students, take more control over their own learning are really not hard for you to do. And so this handout that I'm giving you kind of explains step by step what I'm going to talk about. And it gives you some things that you can use in your classroom. The first one is students can actually create their own graphic organizer. Obviously, they're going to need some help and some guidance from you at first. So the idea would be that you would give them something maybe like what you have in this packet here, which this is just a few. Obviously, there are millions of graphic organizers out there. Just something that shows them, here's some options of how you can organize your thinking. And then show them lots of different examples and let them try different ones and see how they think about things. Because everybody sees things differently. And so then eventually you will tell them, okay, I've given you several graphic organizers, now you choose which one you want to use this time. And eventually have something, either individual or group work or some sort of project, where they totally choose their own graphic organizer. And for English, I know that for the PARCC assessments coming out in the spring, they need to have this skill. And we've been trying some of these things already. Because when they sit down and they take these assessments, we can't help them. And so they need to already be aware of all the different ways they could possibly organize their thinking. So these are just a few that you could choose from, but whatever will work. These are from the My Avid website, and they really should work in any content area, but you're certainly not limited to these. And students could come up with something even that you don't provide to show their thinking. So this is just, it's a little step-by-step that explains how you would gradually let them work on their own graphic organizers, but also how you should probably at first give them some examples to pull from. And then Mr. Young has another strategy that's pretty easy.
Yeah, something that we've used in 8th grade English that's really effective is students creating their own rubrics or creating portions of a rubric. I know something that we've done, we give them, it's actually on the back of this sheet. This is one of the projects that we do in 8th grade English. And we leave the last line blank. And so they get to decide on what they want to be graded on. That also helps with student engagement because they're deciding how they want to be graded, and also that helps them to do better because they know exactly what they're going to be graded on because they're the ones coming up with it. And so you can do this as a class. I think for this project we did, or at least I did, we brainstormed ideas up on the screen, and then we all voted as a class what we wanted to be graded on. And every class, every period was different. So they got to decide that. You can do it different groups, if they want to make their own.
Or even individually.
Yeah, or individually. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that, and again, there's a step-by-step on there as well. And this, again, helps with tests as well because that brings you up from the proficient to distinguished because it's students deciding what they want to be graded on, and it's student engagement, which is also a building focus for us as well.
Okay. Any questions?
And most of the 8th grade students should have already been exposed to this because, as you mentioned, we do it in 8th grade, and
Yeah, so all
by
9th
the
grade
end of
students
the
have had
year,
it in 8th grade as well.
yeah, and we keep dropping it off as we go. So for the next assessment, they'll have 2 lines, and then 3, and then by the end of the year, they will have created their own rubric, and they will understand the process thoroughly.
And this is definitely one of those things where, sorry, I was going to say that you're going to have to guide them through this and maybe check what they're coming up with because they might pull something that doesn't have anything to do with what you're trying to teach them. They're going to try to be scored on something that's easy or not relevant, so you're going to have to walk them through that until they understand you've got to pick something that relates to what we're doing.
Again, it goes with the gradual release thing. Just give a little bit of leeway every time you do it.
Give them more control.
And you were doing this last year, so 9th graders?
Yeah,
All 9th
graders
graders
do too.
did it last year.
And we started it late in the year last year, so they didn't get through a whole rubric.
But
They
they
just got
understand
through a
the
couple of,
concept.
so they understand the concept. They just didn't. We're starting it early.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Thanks.
I know, those are Avid strategies, but those are also high yield literacy strategies that we've been using for a number of years in the district. And so I think they fit nicely with things that should be going on in all classrooms. And next, Cincy's going to talk to us about assessment.
Some stuff. I had a couple things. Something, and I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. I'll put this PowerPoint on the share drive for you, so if you want to go back and look at this. But really what you need is in your hand. If you guys, though, can listen just for a couple of minutes before you start going to the handouts, then I'd really appreciate this. Talking about formative assessments and how important they are and why we should be kind of using them in our classrooms. And if you don't know what they are, then hopefully this will help you understand them as well. Why or how do formative assessments relate to tests, or why are formative assessments, how can they be important to you in the classroom as a teacher? Significant domain 1, planning and preparation, designing student assessment, congruence with outcomes, formative assessment, and use for planning. So this is a piece of your test evaluation. And then domain 3 in instruction, using assessment and instruction, assessment criteria, monitoring of student learning, feedback to student, and student self-assessment and monitoring. So this formative assessment piece is really important to you, not only for student learning, but also for your test evaluation. A definition or kind of an understanding of what formative assessment is. Formative assessment is a process used by teachers and students during instruction that provides feedback to adjust ongoing teaching and learning to improve students' achievement of intended instruction and outcomes. It's kind of lengthy and kind of wordy, so I want you to take a couple of seconds and at your table or with the person next to you, talk about that definition or that idea and what you feel like is the most important pieces in that. What is it that you feel like that you need to know or that you need to pull out when you're trying to kind of decipher what formative assessment is? Just take like a minute and we'll come back and talk.
Feedback, adjustment.
During.
Adjusting, modifying.
I told him, I said, no, that's and they're really small.
Y'all go too? Okay, just real quick, what were some of the things that you felt like as a table or with your neighbor that from this idea, what do you feel like is some of the most important pieces? Yes,
The parts in red.
well, okay. I guess thanks for those visual cues you got. But well, I mean, it is, and then what Ellen said, it's a process for teachers and students. Formative assessment is not just for the teacher. It's not just what is the teacher doing. Formative assessment needs to be something that teachers do and also get students to get involved in as well. Yes, Mr. Clark?
Exit tickets.
Exit tickets are a really good example of giving, of using formative assessments in your classroom. Having students give you that immediate feedback before they leave the classroom. What else did you see was maybe important, Sarah?
I like the word adjust because it's our chance to make sure everybody's getting it and reteach if necessary in the moment.
Yes, and that is. I mean, that's exactly adjusting what you're doing. If you're receiving that feedback, which I may have told somebody, if you're receiving that feedback and you realize, 2/3 of my class doesn't have any idea what's going on, what I just taught them, then the purpose of formative assessments is that it's going to allow for you to adjust what you've been doing so that you can make sure that you're making the students are learning. Anything else or things that stuck out to you or your neighbor?
Improve students' achievement.
I did steal feedback, sorry.
Yeah.
And
I think during instruction, I mean, if you wait to the end, then you kind of, it's done and over. Right?
yeah, you can't, and that's the purpose of formative is that it's kind of, I think it says that it's ongoing. Or I say it somewhere else. It's ongoing. There it is. Ongoing. That it's not something that you just do at the end with a test or with, something, and it's something that you're doing periodically throughout, either throughout a class period or throughout a unit, but you're doing it kind of over the course of your teaching. It's not just a one shot and then, they didn't get it and you moved on.
If I can say, Socrative is the greatest tool for this of anything in the world, any kind of polling software that they can hit an answer to a question and you know immediately what percentage got it and what percentage didn't. Polling like Socrative.
Socrative, and it's an app that you can, that we have on iPads, but kids can get it on their phones for free, and it's super
all of them
easy
have
to
it.
use in the classroom. Okay. a wheel, that circle thing, I don't know, that kind of shows you where you, kind of ideas that kind of would help students. And think of these people as students. And this is how you're getting the students involved. I know they look kind of old. Is that what you're laughing at?
Just that we should think of it as students.
First of all, you want your students to understand where are they going. Okay, so like where is it that my teacher, or where is it that I'm going with what concept or skill or whatever. And then where am I now? Like, currently, if I know here's the end goal, well, where am I? Am I almost there, or am I really far away from there? Where am I now? And then the last one is, how do I close the gap? So this is kind of a nice, what is this called? An organizer, a circle. I don't know, cycle. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Whoever said that. Cycle. That you should be ongoing in your classroom. That you should be using this with your students to get them involved in, and taking some responsibility for where they are and what and how to get where you want them to be. Okay, like I said, I'm going really quick. Formative assessment process, what it is and what it isn't. We're going to look primarily at what it is. What it is that it's a planned process. You can't just, you can do some stuff that are pretty impromptu, and formative assessment can be simply observing and monitoring your kids, but you do have to, especially as you go throughout a unit, there needs to be some planning that goes on. You just can't just be, oh, well, that's going to be my formative assessment, or, oh, that's a formative assessment. There needs to be some planning that goes on to where that you actually, if I'm teaching kids how to do a certain skill, well, I need to be formatively assessing them to know that they're progressing towards that skill. I mean, I don't want to be giving them, an exit ticket or a quick write that doesn't have anything to do with the skill and count that as my formative assessment. So it does need to be planned. It needs to be based on assessment evidence. You need to use the evidence to make instructional adjustments and or verify learning, and you want to give the kids some feedback. That's one thing that I know that a lot of us have a hard time with when we do collect things or when we pick up things is that, with 120 or 130 or 150 students, it's sometimes hard to give, that feedback immediately so that we can get them, either shifted in what they're doing or correct some wrong learning. So that's one thing that you've got to make sure that you're doing is giving them feedback so that they can kind of they can shift whatever direction they have been going. Here's another one, organizer graphic for you to see. Starts with formative assessment, generates timely student achievement and information. And this side is for teachers, and this side is student. So if I give a formative assessment, then it gives me that timely student information. I can see where my students are. I can see what my students have learned. And then over here, it should help me determine whether or not my instruction was effective. It should also decide whether I need to reteach or whether I need to modify what I've been doing. So this side is the teaching side. And then over here for students, if I've given them back, if I've collected the student information, then I can give them their individual progress, and they can figure out what they cannot do and what they didn't learn so that they can go back and kind of make some adjustments for themselves. This is some research, so just to show you that I didn't make this all up in my office yesterday. Paul Black and Dylan William wrote a book called Inside the Black Box, which is about formative assessment. And in 1998, they published the results of a meta-analysis of over 250 research studies on classroom assessment practices. And they did a variety, it was a variety of schools, socioeconomic levels, a variety of everything. So they kind of made sure that they hit the whole gamut, when they were doing this study. They found firm evidence that formative assessment is an essential component of classroom work and that its development can raise standards of achievement, producing effect size between 0.4 and 0.7, which is really significant. Do what?
Is that dress size 47?
Yes.
Okay.
They saw the greatest gains in low achieving students. So this is where we really, really need to kind of realize how important formative assessment is that our low achieving students actually make the greatest gains when we're constantly monitoring. Because what happens if we're not doing formative assessment and you're teaching, well, a lot of times your high achieving students are getting it, and then you're moving on. Well, students who aren't getting it are your low achieving students, and you've just left them, and they don't get what's happening in the next step and in the next step. And so where we're our target kids, those are the kids that are seeing the greatest gains by us doing this ongoing kind of constant formative assessments in our classroom. I'm skipping.
Seriously, what is sizes 4 to 7? I didn't.
It's like looking at their test scores, that it bumped up, that their test scores bumped up, and they saw the greatest gains from a 0.4 to a 0.7.
It's
So,
a correlation coefficient.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
That's
you.
how efficient it was.
Good job, thank you, Marcia. Okay, 5 critical features to guide educators towards effective use of formative assessment. Learning progressions, learning goals and success criteria, descriptive feedback, self and peer assessment, and collaboration. And each one of these I have quite a bit of notes on, but like I said, because of timing and because I know that Mr. McClure still has something that he's going to do, I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on these. But if you want some help, then when I put the PowerPoint online or on the share drive, like if you click to the notes view, all of my notes are at the bottom about each one of these. So you can go through and you can kind of look at that if you want a little bit of extra help, or if you think I need to, I want to look at this a little bit further. But some of them are pretty self-explanatory. I mean, obviously, collaboration, working within a team of teachers, is going to help you use formative assessments, because something that they've done in their classroom, or just even planning to include those formative assessments. I know in the English department we've made a conscious effort of when we get together and we're doing our weekly planning that we stop and we make sure that we're adding those formative assessment pieces. So they're kind of embedded within the lesson plans for the week. Okay, these are the techniques that I gave you, and I've listed some of them up there. If you want to look at the 2 sheets that I gave you, they're very self-explanatory. On one side, it lists the formative assessment, and then on the right side, it tells you how you could possibly use this in your classroom. So it's giving you some pretty specific examples of doing quick formative assessments that is going to give you very immediate feedback, so that you could adjust what you were doing, or you could kind of monitor your student learning. There's a ton of them. So if you go through this and you want some help with one of these, then please come and see me. I will gladly come and help you, or show you what this might look like, or even model it for you in your classroom. But I'm not going to take the time to read them all to you. Some of them are super short and you're already doing them. Like, for example, exit tickets, or a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a whiteboard, or something like that. I know a lot of you are doing the formative assessments in your classroom, but here's some other examples, some other tools that you could use to kind of maybe, a variety of things, and maybe let you know something a little bit different than what you've been doing in the past. Questions? Went through that really fast. Okay.
Well, in formative assessments it's one of my PGP goals, is to focus on formative assessments. And it's because if you look at domain 3, formative assessments, you can justify each of those components within domain 3 through formative assessments. When you look at, and probably the biggest one is responding to the needs of the students, knowing where your students are and responding to their needs. And also it fits in with questioning, the pacing of the lesson. A lot of times you need that, after 12 minutes, that's a good time to do a formative assessment for student engagement. So those formative assessments are very important. That's why those are some things that we're going to be looking for when we come to the classroom and commenting on, making sure you know where your students are and you're responding to the needs of your students. So please look over these. I know a lot of you already do some great things in your classroom. Look over these. If you see something that you do that's not on here, share it with Cincy, and we can share it with everybody else. All right, anybody have any questions on formative assessments? Okay. All right. Hopefully the internet is back to working speed. I know it's been very frustrating the last few days, and for everybody. And we got an email. I think everybody got that email last night saying that it should be back to the speed that it was before. And with that said, we need to make sure that we're on top of it with attendance. That's been kind of a discrepancy. We're looking at some of those attendance reports right now, and we're getting 4 in one period and 8 in the next period. So just make sure that you're taking attendance every period, every day. Also with that, with eSchool, just remember, oh yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, especially the Mac people, I lost server connection, and I think some of us did, and I still couldn't get in today, and I had to hardwire, which I haven't had to do in forever, but that worked.
Everybody needs to hardwire. If they put out a thing that says that we're having a problem, shut your computer down, plug it into an Ethernet cord, and just leave it plugged in.
Docking station hardwire.
Hardwire. If your docking station has an Ethernet cord in it. A lot of people move theirs around so that sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
And you know, I know with eSchool,
I'll help anybody.
You can't always get it every period, but make sure you take roll for that period and you either email it to Hannah or you write it down and send it up to the office. And ultimately we need those, you know, if there is an issue, ultimately we need them by the end of the day. You know, by the end of that period would be best, but if you can get them at least by the end of the day, it's never too late when it comes to that. You can
I
go
have
and
a
fix
quick
that. Yes,
question
ma'am.
on attendance. We can't see the exact period that kids were absent. Like, they're showing up absent in my class when they're not, and present when they're not.
There's one way to look at it. When you go to the attendance report where it's on a calendar for just that one student. No, and you hover over it. You have to hover. I don't know how I discovered this, but if you hover over it, it shows which periods they were absent.
Oh, okay.
It's tricky.
And-
There's no way to get a good report of
And
it.
I would say if they're in your classroom and they're showing up absent, send an email to Hannah
Yeah.
Savage, so that way she knows, because she's been fighting that attendance issue. Also, remember with grades, the expectation, and we kind of ran into this with the 9-week grade reports that went out. The expectation is we need 2 grades a week in there, and you need to enter them at least every 2 weeks. We're running into some issues where very few people had grades in certain areas, and some parents, got a few parents. So make sure that we're entering those grades, and so that way they can keep track of how they're doing. You know, our parents check grades quite a bit, or some of them do, so we need to make sure that we're doing what we tell them we're going to do.
That also comes up in all the special ed conferences, because every time we meet, we're always looking at grades, and so I'm sitting with the parent, or one of the DEPS people are sitting with the parent, and we're going over grades, and I've got the printout, and there are 2 or 3 classes that have no grades, and I don't have an answer for that, so it really puts me on the spot, and then I'm trying to defend whatever's going on, I don't know what's going on, so we're discussing grades all the time in my department, so it's really helpful if I have correct information.
Anybody have any questions on grades or any of that?
When are progress reports going to go home?
I don't have the exact dates. Anybody know?
November 13th is when grades are doing the grade book, 4 p.m.
Say that again.
November 13th.
Tomorrow.
That's tomorrow. I looked it up yesterday, that's why I know.
We'll send that in email. I'll find out a little bit later. All right, if you would, right now, get in a group of about 6 or 7, and make sure somebody in that group has some kind of a iPad or a computer, or if you just want to write down. What we're going to do is I want you to go over these are the Fayetteville Public Schools mission and goals. This is something Dr. Hewitt asked us to do. If you'll look at these, and then your exit ticket is to send me an email with your comments on these goals. If you want to change some of them, some of the things you'd like to see in there to help meet our needs, to help meet our school system, if you would, get in a group, look at these, and make comments on the changes. And I just need, if you'll send me an email and copy everybody in your group, so that way I know who's in your group, send me an email with your comments, reflections on these missions and goals.
I did kind of want to wrap up the Amazing Race. So we hadn't really had a chance to kind of finish it out. So we wanted to do that. It's just saying, please wait. I don't know what that means. Okay. First, I really want to thank all of you for your participation in the Amazing Race. I think we had, there were 14 teams, and I think we had the majority of the faculty participating, and I was pleased, surprised, overwhelmed at times, but it went really well. I think that we accomplished what we set out to do, which was to kind of create a community with the teachers, to get to know each other a little bit better, and hopefully to have a little bit of fun. I think there's a little competitiveness. But, so now we need to kind of come up with who, or figure out who the winner is. And we did have a tie. We had a tie between the principal's team, which was Mr. McClure, Mr. McClung, who I saw earlier. Oh, he's on duty. Richard Campbell, Leonard Ogden, and Officer Carroll. And the Masters, which was Marcia, Lou, Jeff, and Ellen, right here. So we had a tie. They both had, I believe, 4,900 points at the end of the potluck. And so in order to do a tiebreaker, really struggled with what to do for a tiebreaker. We're going to do a real quick something. So if your team is enough here, and I know like Ellen's here, is Marcia here? Yeah. There she is, I'm sorry. So there's your team. So get with your team, and I know your team, part of your team is missing. Oh my gosh, we have to deal with that. Okay, sorry. Get your team together and choose. I need one person from each team, and this will probably take literally 2 minutes. So I need one person who you feel like knew the race the best.
Ellen.
Ellen.
You only have 3 of you here.
You haven't been here long enough.
Richard, you got it.
Okay, so Richard. Okay, so Ellen and Richard are going to choose a number, and the highest number gets to go first. And so the highest number actually has the better opportunity to win. Okay.
He looks as excited as I
He's reading them. Richard.
That's how they got 4,900 points.
Richard's cheating. Okay, what number did you get, Richard?
Well, 28.
Okay, yeah, there's only 30 numbers. Okay, so without help from your team, so obviously Leonard and Mr. McClure can't yell at you, and help from the audience. Richard, I need you to tell me in the order of how they were released, how they were rolled out, the 9 challenges that we did in the Amazing Race. So you get to, if he misses it, it's your turn, and you get to go.
I don't even.
May I understand the question?
And you tell me the list of challenges in the order they were released. Do not go to your email.
Oh, sorry.
In the order that they were released, starting with the first day.
So in the potluck.
Yes,
definitely. Potluck.
We ended with the potluck, yes.
Point for me.
In the order they were released? No.
He gets first choice, so yeah, it's perfectly fair.
Write down whatever she
Choose
wants.
for her to go first.
Oh, sorry, fun.
28.
I don't even remember any of the challenges.
I know.
All right, the
So
first
maybe by
challenge.
default it should go to team number 3.
We had the banner sign thing first. We had to create.
Okay, so we'll call it team flag.
We had the. Shoot.
Makes you wonder
Well, we are doing that too.
It's Ellen's turn.
Under pressure.
So does that mean she has to say them all in order too?
Do what?
Yeah, so what happens if neither one of us
Leonard,
can do
you
this?
can do it?
No.
What happens if neither one of us can do this?
You didn't volunteer.
Oh, if Ellen can go first, she wins.
Oh, so he just got those.
Yeah, he got number 1.
Do I have to say his
He's
name?
number 1.
It's number 1.
Banner challenge with food drive. We
Oh, sorry.
I just said them in order.
Okay, well, you lost.
Let's hear what Ellen
You
Okay,
just got to get the second one, Ellen. Come on.
Okay. Do I have to know exactly what the second one was, or just generally better order than what he had?
Exact's gonna be.
Oh my gosh.
You get the
Okay.
second one.
Oh god. Why did we not choose Marcia for this? What were we thinking? She has like a photographic memory.
We didn't know what it was going to be. We thought it was something
Gosh,
humiliating.
okay.
I'll steal my career.
Marcia's sitting here probably got the
Okay, so the group flag thing was first. Was the performance thing second?
Yes.
Yes, we won.
So okay, win automatically wins.
So she wins automatically. And next year, high school fun facts, the Halloween photo challenge, the food basket, minute to win it, picture perfect, graham cracker house, and potluck was the last thing. The winning team wins let me write to see where for the tiebreaker. Winners win a treated to be out. Will be treated out to lunch at either Mermaids or AQ. Winner's choice. And whenever you guys in the next, hopefully we can do it in the next week or not week or so, maybe before Thanksgiving, if not right after Christmas, so we can get this wrapped up. And we will.
We've made an executive decision. I'll speak for the team. We've decided to donate the prize to the people who ran the contest, so they get to go out. They did a lot more work than we did.
And maybe you should take Woodward with you for yesterday's.
If you have an opportunity to write a thank you note, PTO helped us out quite a bit with donations. I have some cards up here, and if just a brief, like, hey, thanks for helping us, or thanks for donating, just something really quick. And they have a box in the B Hall workroom, and you can just stick it in there. You don't have to say who it's from. You can just say from Woodland faculty or whatever. But I have some note cards up here. That would be super nice. They donated gift cards. They donated canvases, arts and crafts supplies. The Graham Cracker, all of the Graham Cracker House, and a special shout out to Michelle Price and Annie Langston, the two parents who donated for the Amazing Race. So it would be super nice. We did, do some of it in house with cheer stuff, but definitely got a helping hand from PTO. So that would be really awesome if you said thank you for that. Last thing that I want to bring up is the holiday party or a winter party. We have in the past done it outside of school, and would like to get as many people as involved as possible. And so if you have an idea or a suggestion for a winter party, we're kind of at a blank or at a loss. If you have an idea or something that you think would be fun and that would include as many people as possible, then shoot an email to me or to Lindsay, and we will kind of start getting that in the works. Last thing, door prizes for today. Staying with our Amazing Race, I thought I would give door prizes today for the third place team, which was Team LL Cool J, which would be Carrie, Samir Jobet, Chris McClure, and Christy Dean. If you guys want to go by the office, then she has a basket of door prizes left, and you can grab a door prize.
Thank you.
They were third.
I thought rigorous.
Third place, when it was all said and done, was I tallied the things, and it was Team LL Cool J. So.
I just want to say something. I want to thank Cincy for doing this. She came to me with this, and I was a little nervous at first. But I thought she did a great job, and it kind of goes back. I worked with a coach one time, and he said that if you're willing to do something silly for your team, you're willing to do anything for them. So I thought that fit well with this, and we all made fools of ourselves at one point.
What's up there?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I think that by the end, I think that everybody was really glad that they had participated, or that the lunch kits. I think there's a lot of grumbling, but they were really good, and they were so much fun to watch. So I was excited that it all worked out how it did.
The students loved it too. I think the atmosphere of the fun, smiling and having a good time, joking around with each other. It was neat.
Next year, that's an Amazing Race. I did tell several people that we were going to do. I'm not going to be here, but the Hunger Games. So the last year was going to be I have a real quick formative assessment. When my computer finally came on, and Amy's going to do it. So I'm going to hand these out to you while we're waiting for this. I have two sets of handouts. Two sets of handouts. Make sure that you get both. They look very similar, but they say something different at the top. So make sure that you do get both of them. One says processing activities, and the other one says formative assessment summary. Okay.
You are now in charge of.
Thank you. And if you.
There's two handouts.
No business.
It comes. Oh, it's on the desktop.